Hey, how's it going everyone? We meet again. This time we're attempting to properly teach you guys how to look for what you want for your build, while also taking a look at one of the more complicated weapons, but also one of the coolest, being the Mode Blade. I'd also like to make this more of a noob-friendly / basic guide, so instead of overwhelming information, we'll just keep it basic, and then you guys can expand upon this according to your own playstyle. And then we can share our findings, thoughts and improvements in the comments and kinda have a cool place to get some new ideas every now and then. And before we start, it should be worth you guys knowing my current oddity list, talents, boss talents, and difficulty for a more realistic comparison. So I'll start off by explaining how the weapon works, and I think it's better from an in-game POV. So let's start with the basics and we'll add on top from there. So Predator Shield will create a shield equal to 25% of our max HP and will last for 8 seconds. Next, Sunrush Gale will generate a vortex pulling enemies to the center and will follow up with a sweep attack. After the sweep attack, we'll gain focus, allowing us to charge any attack a lot quicker. Next, we of course have light and heavy attacks. However, we can also charge either one of them up to stage 3, corresponding to the colors shown. Next, let's introduce Fighting Spirit, aka Battle Will. These will be the shield icons on the bottom right. Using Sunrush Gale will consume 2 of these, so if you don't have any stacks, you can't use the skill. Next, using either a light or heavy attack charge to stage 3 and releasing will also consume a Fighting Spirit stack, and pressing the corresponding button again at the cost of an extra Fighting Spirit stack will allow us to use a follow-up attack. These follow-up attacks are going to be known as your varied combo. Note that you don't need to spend Fighting Spirit initially to unlock the varied combo, and here are some numbers from a test I did. Now, how do we gain Fighting Spirit? We can gain 2 stacks by using our shield ability, defending, and natural regen over time. Moving on, let's get Fortitude out the way. Fortitude basically means your character has this yellow glow, which you can think of as super armor. And this super armor can only be broken by certain crowd control hits. Now, let's introduce Stormbreaker Spear. So pairing it with this weapon right off the bat, you'll notice that we have an extra 2 stacks of Fighting Spirit, 1 stack if you haven't reached the max HP requirement. And after hitting an enemy with a charged or varied attack, you'll also gain some physical damage reduction. This of course will apply when using the Mode Blade.
You know, I'm getting real tired of this, Luigi. Later, bitch.
Stormbreaker Spear will also consume Fighting Spirit with Thunder Shock, which knocks down the target and applies vulnerability, which increases HP and key damage taken by 10%. This knockdown seems to be working differently in terms of its interaction with Fortitude, but I still have to do more testing. Another valuable thing this spear adds is that after casting a charged heavy attack, the last hit of that will grant us Drumbeat. Drumbeat will increase any of our charge attacks by 15%. However, we can exchange Drumbeat for Breakthrough by using our shield ability with the Mode Blade. Breakthrough will instead increase our damage by 30% and remove the endurance cost while charging. The spear also has a taunt that will apply shock to an enemy, reducing their damage. Now, I'm not good with this thing yet, so let's keep it simple. The rotation I'm currently using is this: Spear Heavy Attack into Spear Thunder Shock to apply vulnerability, Tab or Weapon Swap, Shield to gain Breakthrough, Charged Heavy Attack into Charged Heavy Attack, and of course using the varied follow-ups. Now to improve this, we can use Spear Heavy Attack, Spear Thunder Shock, get 1 hit in, and then parry cancel, into Weapon Swap, into Charged Heavy Attack, parry cancel, and pop your shield to get Breakthrough, and then spam the Heavy Attack again. Now Now this is probably more of a I'm doing stuff combo and probably not very efficient or realistic. So up until parry cancelling to get vulnerability is good. Then we can probably use Dragon's Breath, parry cancel that, pop our shield, and then spam heavies. Dragon's Breath will take advantage of the vulnerability. And then once we get better and start getting used to the boss animations, we can then time our parry cancels to be more efficient. And of course, the fact that you can knock down bosses is very important to keep in mind as well. And the varied combo of the heavy attack is an amazing gap closer as well. Just some ideas to keep things simple. Just remember that parry cancelling or even jumping followed by a dash can be very useful with this weapon. Now here is how I went about building this weapon. Of course, for PvE, I'm going to be pairing this with the Stormbreaker Spear. I am a fan of mixing weapons, so I won't say it's necessary, but you will be losing the Fighting Spirit stacks, Drumbeat and Breakthrough, and other related stuff if you want to count those. However, my goal is to use the big, heavy, satisfying attacks, so the Stormbreaker Spear is going to help with that. Next, we want to look at our martial art talents, and as you can see, we are currently at 87% effectiveness rate. So what does this mean? If we look at charge calculation enhancement, so increases the max physical attack used in calculating damage by 4 for every 5000 max HP, up to 60 additional max physical attack, aka having 75,000 HP. Now this is just the effectiveness label. However, there are other things here that you have to pay attention to. For example, Thundercry's blade, charged skill attack, and varied combo attack will never become abrasion and will deal 10% more critical damage. If your only goal is to use the heavy attack, then this is a big piece of information. Let's look at max HP up, for example, which will increase our max HP based on the body stat and will currently cap out at 100 body. So it seems before we want any max HP, we'd ideally want to fill the body requirements first, since body will also give HP, and then we don't have to be overspending, let's say, with other max HP attributes if the value we get from body is already enough. However, it's important to note that with each breakthrough, these stats and requirements will change. So the way I'm going about this is trying to use non-late game requirements as sorts of a learning experience for when we do reach endgame. And these talents are going to point you in the right direction when it comes to the stats that you're going to want. So for example, I have already reached the minimum stone split attack requirement. So unless I want more penetration, I can start thinking about another stat, for example, crit rate or crit damage in my case, while also of course trying to meet the requirements for the other talents. So as you can see, I did try building to reach these requirements, although it didn't really go that well. Still, good enough for me currently since I want to save my stamina, so I'll just improve things as they come. Now for inner ways and everything else, disclaimer, this is just what I like doing and currently trying out, so I'll just let you know what I'm thinking. First of all, I don't know if this is my main build or even a weapon I'll be using, so my inner way progress is focused on ones that I think will work in most situations. Of course with bias, for example, I really like using mystic skills, so Fury Harvest is my priority. And Moral Chant is kinda like my safe bet, let's say. My goal with this build is heavy attack, do big numbers. So Exquisite Scenery is great for a 10-second cooldown, fast stage 1 heavy attack. And our varied combo hits will now also generate 1 Battle Will, or Fighting Spirit. I would say this inner art is essential for PvE Moblade, since Breakthrough 3 allows us to use our heavy attack without charging and still follow up with a varied combo. And Tier 6 will allow us to consume additional Fighting Spirit stacks for even more damage. For Divine Roulette, I really like the idea of this. It also applies to the varied combos and charge skills. It has like damage reduction synergy going on. It seems like a fun thing to try, seeing that my crit rate is also pretty low, but I can see myself exchanging this for Moral Chant, for example. Don't forget, while yes, the Moblade is slow to apply Moral Chant, you can proc it with your Mystic skills. It also gives raw physical numbers and direct crit rate, which is great for us. Battle Anthem, not much to say. For open world, you might want to change it, since hitting something with less than 60% stamina, less than 60% endurance is probably going to be harder than it sounds. And then Adaptive Steel just for the crit damage. The extra effect on the spear is kind of whatever. And in terms of breakthroughs, this won't be benefiting us at all, at least not for PvE. There is probably others that I'm not thinking about and still have to try, like Thunderous Bloom for example, since it empowers heavy attacks and airborne heavy attacks, which is really nice since I like the animation on the Moblade one. It increases physical attack, bonus key damage, which sounds nice. It also gains more increased damage stacks. So I can see myself trying this out. Art of Resistance is also one you shouldn't sleep on if you like this weapon, since it will increase the duration of our shield, and Breakthrough buff that gives crit rate, increased damage, critical damage, So in my opinion, Art of Resistance is top tier for both PvE and PvP. I'll just be giving some ideas for PvP since I haven't played much of it and I don't want to speak out my ass. So my current thought is using Moral Chant, Art of Resistance, Fury Harvest, and Nameless Spear as an excuse to use Adaptive Steel, which at tier 3 slows the enemy and buffs our movement speed if we hit them with a tab skill. So of course, Moblade being slow and trying to find ways to help with that. Now you can of course find other ways of playing, like using Rope Dart together with your shield to just sit back and regen, or using something like Inkwell Fan or Nameless Sword as a gap closer. For Mystic skills, one of the most important ones is going to be Golden Body, since you can use it just as your shield is about to run out, and the percentage of the HP the shield had will be converted to your actual HP, which will also proc Moral Chant. Do not sleep on this Mystic art, no matter what build you're using. The Fortitude buff is extremely good in of itself. Next, Dragon's Breath, because Dragon's Breath, it'll proc Morale Chant and things like Eagle Rise set, which is what I'm using. Drunken Poet, I can see this being used as a great catch-up tool, and possibly the Frog as well. I tried to cancel Meridian Touch with skills from the Moblade and the Spear and some Mystic skills. No luck so far, but if anyone finds a way, then that is surely to be huge information for you Thundercry users. And of course a lot of the other ones probably require some playing around and treating them as personal preference. Ghostly Steps for stamina reduction cost could help, as well as Yaksha Rush or Talon Strike, which you'd want one of them for PvP anyway. Soaring Spin applies healing reduction, gap closes, and I believe has iframes, so it's an amazing Mystic art for both PvE and PvP. And yeah, it's basically trying to find stuff to compensate how slow you are. So Cloud Steps is really useful, for example. For armor pieces, in my opinion, is that it's up to you. Now that you know a lot more about the weapon, maybe the answers will become more clear. I'm of course using the Rain Whisper for crit damage and heals that are enhanced with HP shield, paired with Eagle Rise for survivability, since I also wanted to try this for PvP. But you can of course find some use with all the other shield related armor sets. So, hopefully I understand the system a little bit better, so that this video serves as a good guide for all of you. Of course, any misinformation will be corrected in the comments. Let me know what your favorite way of playing this weapon is, since it seems to be a lot more on the awkward side. Anyway, thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. See ya!
Sword from south. It is time to march to the north. Isn't right!